Welcome to the Energy Upgrade podcast. Hey, I'm Vanessa, and I'm obsessed with all things health, energy, entrepreneurship, motherhood, and living my best life. I'm here to give you actionable steps in reclaiming your energy and reconnecting with your power. I'm a certified integrated health practitioner and kinesiologist. I spent the past decade with a focus on skin health and age prevention while co-founding a network of medical aesthetic clinics on the west coast of Canada. After healing myself from burnout, mold, heavy metal, and all the things, I'm back to my passion for health optimization, and I'm lucky enough to coach high-achieving women just like you in finding their energy and life force back. Transforming their life so they can step into the highest version of themselves has energized me and inspired me to bring to life this podcast. Here, I'll talk about detox, lifestyle, mindset, supplements, breathwork, parasites, and everything in between. I know you're so busy, so I keep it under 30 minutes. Thank you for being here. Cozy up and let's get started.
Your time is now. Your energy is your life force. You want to be able to magnetize your wildest dreams. A liver detox is the fastest way to start healing. You can and you will.
Marc Longwith, welcome back to the Energy Upgrade podcast.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me back, Vanessa.
Now you're joining us from a different place in the world. You're in Rome, Italy, for a little bit.
Yeah, for a little bit.
And today I wanted to have you back to talk about the art of manifestation. That's something that you and I have been jamming a little bit about. And our last episode, and by the way, if you haven't listened to episode 10, which was really about the balance of the masculine and feminine energy, that episode was the single most popular episode I had on the show. It's the one I had the most comments. I think it really shook the women to hear all these things. So I have high expectations for today. No pressure.
I'm all in. This is one of my favorite subjects.
Great. And today we are joined by some live women that are in the Energy Upgrade coaching program, as well as Summer Queen. So welcome everybody. And we will be taking live questions as well, if anybody has any. But maybe before we start, Marc, you are an entrepreneur. You're also a mixed martial art expert. You're a fighter. You grew up in Las Vegas. You were sommelier, you ran some restaurants. So how did you land on the manifestation, land field? Like, what's your story?
So if we're going to talk about manifestation in general, I would say that for me, I've always had this little woo-woo background. My mother literally cast my natal chart the week I was born. My father's into like crystal balls, astrology, tarot cards, and then the crazy part is my mother was really into Christianity later on, and my dad got really into Catholicism. So it was all this kind of spiritual type of information that I was gathering as a young boy. So it just always kind of resonated with me. And then the more books I started reading, I think the first one ever that really spoke about the way we think was The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always say that I'll have to think of the book I always recommend, but it's The Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. And then I just started, as I've gone through this process and seen so much of my life change, I've really been diving into Dr. Joe. I went to his retreat in November. That was life-changing. It's not a retreat, y'all. When they say it's an intensive, it is 7 days of intense work. I can tell you that right now.
Like 12 plus hour days, right? The Joe Dispenza
you meditate
retreat.
you eat about 2 hours, and you meditate about 6, and he lectures about 4.
Yeah. Powerful. It's on my to-do list, that's for sure. On my wish list, not to-do, it's a wish list.
We should talk about that, because I would love to do the Cancun one and do the outdoor meditation on the beach. And it's in December. I think G and I were talking about it.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so manifestation. If we're new to this, or tell us, how did you start to really dive into this? But most importantly, feel it, because manifestation is it's about feeling it too, right? You have to be in the right state of mind. So tell us, how did you get started there? Just to give us some ideas on how we can start.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's really like you said, it's about the feeling. When I read The Feeling is the Secret, it really changed my life because I understood that the idea of wanting something from a place of lack is literally like the exact same as just not having it. And when you embody a feeling that you have already achieved or attained it, um, it feels almost like a fake it until you make it energy,
Yes.
until you really understand it. And what I would tell people is it's like conviction. Like when you're so convicted that you just know that something's going to happen and nobody's going to stop you, and everybody's had something like that in their life, whether it was their partner or their children or their family or something they knew they had to do. That's when I think you make the energetic shifts. And that's where I think the feeling piece comes in. Because I think if you're wanting something, like you're just truly like, I desire this so bad and I want it, I think it just gets further away from you sometimes. And
Mhm.
Dr. Joe says it best. He's like, you can get things in the 3D world. He's like, you can get a house in 30 years with a mortgage, or you can get one in 3 months. Like, so it's really up to you how you want to do it. And it's an interesting little analogy he has there.
Yeah, so it's almost like you can do a cosmic cheat, when you're saying you fake it until you make it. So basically it's about bringing yourself in that high frequency of gratitude. So is that your trick to
Absolutely.
get there?
So I'll tell you my trick, and and if I offend anyone, I apologize. So when I was younger, I experimented a lot with psychedelics and other extracurricular activities. And so when I was able to start dropping in these meditations, I was like, wow, this actually feels like this specific feeling I've had on, say, MDMA or another psychedelic. And I realized that I was in that frequency state. And so it was easier for me, I think, than the average person to drop into something that they were never familiar with because I had tapped into it through the use of external substances. And so for me, I've realized that like just being in the vibrational energy of that frequency brings the things to me. And I know that sounds super woo, but I'm telling you, like you can want, when you go to that state, when you're in a Dr. Joe seminar, or now I just do it on my bed, and you're literally shaking and you're in this complete and total pineal gland state, you want for nothing because you are in pure abundance. And I think that is really the secret right there, is to get to that place. And it's not always easy. It takes practice. Our pineal glands are shut off. Our ability to connect is shut off.
Do you want to go deeper on the pineal gland?
Yeah. So basically, this is the way it's explained to me, is that the pineal gland is this rice shaped little piece, and it's about in the center of your brain. And think of it as like an antenna. So if we're vibrational energy, and energy in the quantum is moving at exponential pace, as it slows down through the ranges, it slows down enough to where it becomes actual solid, right? Because we're all just vibrating molecules. They're actually all space. So when you're able to get into that frequency and you have heart and brain coherence, you are connecting with consciousness itself, with your higher power, with God, with creation, whatever you want to call it. And that I think is crucial to just being in that pure love, that pure abundance. And that's when you literally want for nothing. So it's like possibility is limitless. That's what I would say. Not that you can have everything. It's that because you want for nothing, the vibrational possibility is just endless.
I find that's the concept that's hard to grasp, especially for the women I work with, like high achieving, like wanting for nothing is like very hard to grasp. So maybe can we talk a little bit more about how you would get there? So obviously it takes practice, like you say. So this is not going to happen overnight. But also bringing like kindness and compassion to yourself and wanting to just lean in and explore and be in your feminine energy, maybe.
Yeah. I think that that's the big one. One, I just want to tell the ladies out there, or the women, is that you can't you can't tap into that energy with the mind the way we think, right? Like you can't, like it's even me at this level, like I 100% cannot. I have to go to a different place. My tangible alpha male, let's get things done. That energy is not tapping into that. I have to tap into a different energy. So I have to not try so hard. And that's where the real deep meditation, awareness, the lean back, the feminine comes in. And that's when you just allow yourself to connect. And I think if we try to approach the problem, right? Let's call it a problem, with the same mind that we've approached every other obstacle in our life, we will not achieve that. It's a completely different thing. Like you can't try to meditate, you just have to be. And that's a big awareness thing, Vanessa. That's, what that work is, that internal work, getting to know who you are, listening to your crazy monkey mind go all over the place. Like that's not easy.
It is not. So where do we start?
I think we start with little baby increments of slowing down. Like I tell people, they're like, oh, I want to meditate for like an hour a day. I said, why don't you try meditating for 5 minutes,
Yes.
maybe even 5 seconds? Because our
Mm-hmm.
brain, there's a whole study right now. It's like, if you just said, I'm going to meditate for 30 seconds a day, I'm going to add 30 seconds, right? This isn't about this. This is just about the ability to do things in incremental steps, like atomic habits, things like that. I mean, you're going to get to that 15-minute mark. You're going to get to that 20-minute mark. But if you try to jump in and say, I'm just going to do something, it's like that you've never done, like, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to crush legs with squats. And I'm not going to be able to walk for 2 weeks. Like, why would you do that? So I think if you just give yourself grace, and to be honest with you, that would be the key for everyone listening, especially the women, because they're so in their masculine, because I feel like they have more pressure than the men because they're trying to meet that metric, that you really just need some grace and some love for yourself. Like, relax. I think that's where it starts.
So allowing some moments of solitude, some moments where you can be solo with your own thoughts.
Yeah. And I think getting away too.
Getting away, like
Like really,
location.
like literally, like just get out of your environment. Like
Yeah.
just take, even if it's 50 miles away, get out of your environment by yourself. Walk on the grass in Central Park. If you're in New York, I was just there, like with your shoes off. Like get connected to earth and just feel. Like get out of your head, because we were so head driven in the West, Western society, and get into your body. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think people know how to get in their body. I won't get into this, but this is one issue you talk about with like orgasms with women or things like that. Like we're not in our bodies, we're in our minds. This goes for men too when they have their own issues. If we get out of our head and get into our body, and then what Dr. Joe talks about, if you can have that heart and brain coherence where you're in your body and you're actually connecting to your brain, and then you're connecting to the pineal up to the consciousness, it's like limitless.
Then you become that beam.
Yeah,
That
it's like the
beam.
chakras.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, so little bits of meditation starting with, awareness of your body. I always say that too, like go in nature. Nature holds so much wisdom. Bare feet, grounding, summer now, like let's do this is the time to try it, to lean into it. Okay, so then we get to longer increments. So like what's the shift when you're in your meditation where you say you reach to that point of wanting for nothing? Like that's really the part that's hard to achieve. And we've been exchanging on that. Like I've been able to tap into it a few times, but I'm not able to get into there all the time. So give me
are
some
you
tricks.
So I'll give you two tricks. One is, are you using any Dr. Joe stuff? Because there's a big difference between the silent meditation
Yeah.
and the like led by Dr. Joe with the vibrational frequencies. It doesn't have to be Dr. Joe, but I just like this stuff.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I have tried lots of his stuff, which that's when I was able to get into it.
Totally. And I'll give you another trick. Like if you can do it however you want to do it, like whenever you need to take a nap or you're sleepy. But if you wake up when you're super tired and you have your stuff set up and you lean over and grab your eye mask and you put in your headphones, when you're really sleepy, your brain struggles to process. And because it struggles to process, it's slowed down enough or it allows me specifically to drop in way quicker. Like if I'm like amped, I've had a day and I go to sit down and meditate, like it's a little bit longer process. But if I'm like, oh, I'm going to take a nap for an hour, wake up and grab those, the eye mask and the headphones, I just find that I drop in so much quicker. That kind of in between sleep state. I think all humans have done it. They just didn't know it. You feel
Yes.
like you're lucid dreaming. You're kind of in
Yes.
another place. That helps me connect. And I know it's real because I'll be connecting like that and I'm not sleeping. My eyes are wide open, like in the eye mask. So I know I'm awake, but I'm connected. And it's different than lucid dreaming. So
And when you're able to do that right, it's actually super restorative, right? You actually feel like you just had almost like an 8-hour sleep.
I, I was so I have a weird biphasic sleep schedule. I sleep between 4 and 5 hours a night, and I take a 90 minute to 2 hour nap. But even now, lately, like when I do the Dr. Joe meditations, like I don't have to nap. So I know that sounds crazy for everyone, but like I used to wear the Aura ring all the time. I left it in a train station in Milan. That's another story.
Oh,
But I would get 4.5 hours of sleep, and it wouldn't rate me super high because it was too little sleep. But all of my REM deep, all of that was literally like on par with somebody who was sleeping 9 hours.
Wow.
So if I can do in 4 hours what you can do in nine, I mean, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah. So it's a good trick when you want to be in that state to do it in the very early morning when you're still kind of not fully awake.
Yeah.
And then you keep referring to, like, you keep pointing to your ears. So clearly having like good headphones with that binaural beats is going to help you get there faster, right?
Absolutely. I use my earpods, but you can use like if you have like full noise canceling, that's awesome. But I would the one thing I would highly recommend, I have no idea because G bought it for me because she's got lashes. But it's the ones that are open and they, if you have lashes, they won't mess up and they're like a little like there's a little space.
Like
And I just
the
love
eye
them.
mask. Yeah.
Yeah. Like but what's so crazy about it is you'll go into these deep states and you'll open your eyes and you will see the same thing that you see with your eyes closed, which a lot of times I'll see like lights or shapes or images. And that's pretty cool to me because I'm like, my eyes are wide open right now and I'm seeing things that are, like same thing I felt with having my eyes closed.
Wow. Now, let's talk about like the manifestation itself. So, do you start with an intention where you're like, okay, I want to attract this in my life, whether it's a relationship, a house, abundance in any spheres of your life? Like, do you start with an intention or a goal, or do you let that come to you instead?
So in the meditations, I let that come to me. And I'll tell you why, because I've found that when you really drop in, nothing can take place. Like you just fall off, like you're in another world. So it doesn't matter what you thought your intention was going to be, anyways, you're gone. And then things will come to you as you're coming out. So for me, my solution to that is what I call future positive journaling, which is where I can go into that if you'd like, but I don't know if you
Yes.
want to.
Yes.
So basically, I used to. It's great to write down your thoughts. I highly encourage everybody to do that. But at some point, you start to realize like a lot of what I'm talking about is not always positive. It's about what's going wrong in my life. And so I realized I just started shifting that to just journaling about what if everything was exactly how I want it to be? What would it look like? I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, thank you for this amount of money. Thank you for this situation with my partner. Thank you. And so I'm manifesting through future positive journaling. So I'm creating reality, in my opinion.
Yes.
Right. So, and I really believe that we're all creation machines. I mean, listen, we're proving more and more that whether it was God or whatever, this is a projection we're in some sort of projection. The way the world works, it's designed, it's mathematical. So it's like we have this ability to, you know, shift things a little bit and mold it. And I think it's pretty crazy. So
That's a rabbit hole.
yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
We're not going to go there today, but
Nope.
it's a total rabbit hole. Um, okay, yeah, I like that. I wrote it down, like future positive journaling. I do this visualization meditation with my clients where it's about future self, like seeing yourself in 5 years from now. And I invite them to do even like manifestation walks where you go in nature and you start walking like her. You're standing like her, you're smiling like her. And I find that that's like you've mentioned, it's almost like a cosmic cheat where you're blending the timelines. So suddenly it's not 5 years from now. It's like in a month or in 2 weeks or it's tomorrow. Like you're already embodying it.
You're literally pulling future you to you. And I
Exactly.
think that's amazing. And I don't know how this works. You want to talk about a rabbit hole, but Dr. Joe has been talking about how by changing your future, you can actually change the past. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but it's crazy me to believe that with the time continuum and the things they're proving now, like that's even a possibility. Like that's wild. But I know for sure we can take future you and we can shorten the distance between us and them.
I think if you have kids, it can definitely heal things and it can
Yeah.
heal some ancestral lineage and things like that when you're really stepping into that highest version of yourself and you're really kind of walking that path. There's definitely some healing happening, not just for you, but for everybody. That's probably what he means. I don't know.
No, Dr. Joe's like literally changing the past. So I'm like, okay, bro. So, but
Okay.
he's interesting.
He found the time machine, that's for sure. So let's talk about maybe some of the things that can get in the way. Okay, so I'm just trying to always bring it back to like practicality for the people listening. Like, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, okay, it's not coming. Like what can get in the way? We've talked about being in that masculine energy, so being in the mind and not connected to the body. What else do you think gets in the way of attracting that version of us or the things that we want?
I think the biggest thing that gets in the way is probably not what you're going to think. I think it's our lack of grace for ourselves. I think the easier I was able to take it on myself, the more productive I was. Now that doesn't make any sense to an alpha person like myself. I'm like, that makes no sense. But what really made sense logically was the more gentle I was with myself, and because I already had that alpha kind of like, I'm going to get things done, I was able to get back on the horse so much faster. And I think that when it comes to manifestation and these practices and all these things we're trying to do, I think a high level of grace and the ability to bounce back super fast is what separates really the high level people from others. Like I look at a high level CEO, like say Elon Musk or somebody like that, their ability to bounce back from what knocked them down is like seconds. Where for us, sometimes it would take like, I can remember times that it would take me a year to bounce back and get back on a routine and go into things. And I think that I was like that because I had no grace.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. And the grace, I love it. Yeah, that's powerful. There's a question here with regards to pain, like chronic pain. Like when let's say you're wanting to manifest feeling healthy and energetic and comfortable in your own body, is there a cosmic cheat there?
Yeah, so this is the direction that Dr. Joe's been going in, and so we had an opportunity to heal hundreds of people while we're in the retreat, we'll call it that. And so what he's doing is he's proving now, and this is not like opinion anymore. SDSU is there. We saw all the readouts, 850 blood samples. And what's happening is you see these blood samples, you see all the good stuff in our blood levels up here from when we started. And then all the stuff that was not healthy would drop down and lowered. And that was all from the vibrational energy. So he's been able to prove that he's cured multiple patients from, and the biggest one is the chronic pain, right? I mean, you get some people come in there with cancer and but the chronic pain one has been the one that's been, because I do believe it's linked psychologically, in my humble opinion.
Thematic, for sure.
Totally. So when you're in that vibration, it's like you're actually just naturally like in a healing bed. And can I explain it? Is it a pill? Is it no? It's just the vibrational energy of that frequency is putting you in such a positive state that it's shifting the actual DNA inside of your cells. It's shifting the patterns inside of your brain. It's shifting your thinking process. And he has a ton of examples of it now and a ton of testimonials. And now he actually has proof from, all the SDSU work that they're doing.
Yeah. And if that's something that interests you, the book, Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza is mind-blowing. And it's case after cases after cases of that, and with clinical data supporting it. But it does make sense, because when you are in that really high frequency state, when you want for nothing, when you're in the, like he calls it, like the black space, you're kind of just floating, you're in the quantum, you're having a complete out of body experience. So pain is not there, sadness is not there. You're just like, would you explain it that way?
Yeah. So what I would say, this reminds me of like a lot of PTSD patients that are former, Marine recon guys that I know and stuff. And what they're doing is they're taking, they're using mushrooms, they're using MDMA. And what's happening is they're experiencing experiential, a different perspective. And because that perspective was experienced, they can come back to reality and go, oh, there's another option. Yes. And so it creates possibility for them. And I think that's what the vibrational energy does. You go in that space and you're in it and you're like, oh, this isn't this is, there's something else. And I think that expansive piece, that possibility piece is what really shifts. Because I think if, it's like breaking the 4-minute mile, right? Like if somebody sees something's possible, then they actually like, oh, I can try this. And I think that connection to that is really what you're looking for when you go into those states.
It's also like just, and this is so hard for a lot of us to grasp, that, our 3D form, we're just so much more than that.
Correct. Yeah.
And when you start understanding that, here we are doing our thing, working hard and stressing, but really we're just connected to everything around us. That's why when we go in nature, it's so much easier, correct me if I'm wrong, to dial into that and to feel like basically our bodies are like just like blending with everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at it like, just to use like a crazy analogy, but like we're conditioned to a level of like, let's just say we all agree that North Korea is what North Korea supposedly is. So those people are conditioned in that environment. That's how they think, that's how they believe, that's what they've grown up. That's all they know. This is all we know. And I think that I don't want to say we've been lied to, but it is a lie. Like our lack of connection, we're so disconnected from ourselves that we don't even know what's possible because we've never been shown. We don't know what it's like to actually be out in nature and have our shoes off and sleep on the land or go out and hunt for our food or just be what we were designed to be more of. And, I had a buddy, I'll just give you a really easy example. He was in a 10-day meditation vipassana, but I think that's the proper way to say it. And he's like, he came back, to San Diego where we were living. And he's like, wow, I can't meditate here. He's like, what do you mean? You meditate all the time. He's like, no, you don't understand. He's like, when you're silent for 10 days and you're away from every piece of external stimuli, there's a connection that I cannot explain to you, that I don't care who you are, you can't even achieve it in a city. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even realize that we're just these absorbent sponges with all of our screens and all of our Wi-Fi and all of our 5G and all of everything, just even the motorcycles that are going by and the ambulances and the energy of another human being that's in the other building next to you. Like it's all there and we're just absorbing it,
Yeah. We're electricity ourselves, right? I always say how this EMF, those towers, like that's completely just like shifting our own vibration. I love that. That's
such
probably
a
a
one for
lot
me.
to chew on, right?
I just think people have to look at the reality of the fact that we've been a certain way for, say, how many hundreds of thousands of years. And then we've started shifting in the last 5,000 years into society. And then we think like what we are experiencing right now is unprecedented. I mean, we are just, I'm I'm aware and I'm glued to my phone, right? I'm glued to my computer. I'm living in a city right now of 5-6 million people. Like we are just absorbing so much external stimuli. We can't even, no wonder why we can't meditate. You can't even, there's so much. It's like walking down Times Square or down the Vegas Strip and you're just like, and if you are truly an antenna and you're absorbing, can you imagine what your nervous system is going through?
Yeah. So I always say like less is more. And back to basics, one of the first thing I'll tell people is like, just try to watch the sunrise, watch the sunset, reconnect with the things that humans were designed to live with and be connected with. But it's hard. As simple as it sounds, it's actually hard because of this reality we're in. So it's a very strong duality.
I feel like I'm an expert in a specific field, and I'll tell you why. Not only did all of us grow up with all of this external stimuli, but I grew up in Las Vegas.
Yes.
I started in the nightlife industry when I was 16. I was drinking martinis after work and then going to high school the next day with like 45-year-old servers in the restaurant industry. And the point is I thought that was normal till I was 40. And when I moved to Del Mar and I lived there for a few years and I was able to actually like just everything closed at 8 o'clock. I was near the beach. It was just healing from the inside out. And I just couldn't see myself. And that's what I think none of us realize. It's like, not only can we not see ourselves, but the whole world is this blanket. And if you want to remove that blanket, you have to realize like you have to even see there's a blanket there and you have to get out of it. And that is actually a very interesting integrative part because once you realize and then you start to shift to a different perspective or a different way of living, it becomes a very limbo state, as you probably know, Vanessa. Like so many things fall off. You haven't found the new things yet. And to me, this whole practice, that's the hard part, is that limbo stage because you haven't found your new family or your new tribe yet. You've left some things behind. You're in this new space. It's like a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm. That's the process that a lot of my clients go through, where it's like realizing the toxicities around us in our environment, in our relationships, in our jobs. I was joking the other day. I'm like, I think I need to add a disclaimer in my waiver that you might you might quit your job, you might leave your relationship, because once you start seeing these things, you can't unsee them.
Correct.
It
And I
becomes,
think that that's what they wanted, right? That's what everyone says they want. Like I got these people go on these ayahuasca journeys and they come back and they're like, oh my God, I can't even handle the fluorescent light and I'm like, this is what you said you wanted. You blasted your third eye open. What'd you expect?
yes.
So that I tell people, I mean, we just went through it with our boutique mastermind. I mean, we're talking about relationship breakups, people. I mean, like everybody in that group melted down, every single one of them. And I'm just like, yeah, this is what it is. Like entrepreneurship, or any type of family, like kids, husband, wife, or any type of deep spiritual work, it digs into you. It pushes at every little piece. It's just like,
Oh yeah. But it's so necessary. So I always say, if we
absolutely.
don't look under the hood, if we don't reconnect with our bodies, with ourselves, how can we expect to heal? Because our body is energy, like you said, it's frequency. And so if we keep being hard on ourselves, if we keep the hustling, if we keep those same metrics, it's really hard for the body to shift.
And I would ask you to ask yourself, people are like, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm like, well, how's that working out for you?
Mm-hmm.
How's that hustling working out for you? How's that no
Mm-hmm.
sleep working out for you? How's your family right now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have joy? Have you found fulfillment? And I think when you start to ask from those questions, they're like, oh yeah. And you're like, okay, now this path we're going to go on, it's not going to be easy, but at the end you will have what you're looking for. And I always tell people, like, you want to be the hero, but you don't want to go through the hero's journey. Like, this is what it is. Alex Hormozy had a podcast with Chris Labeson. He's like, this is what hard feels like.
Yeah,
This is what hard feels like.
it is hard. But the liberation on the other side, reconnecting with that true version of you, being aware that, oh, there is another way. I can think positively about myself. I can manifest, attract the things that I desire. I have a natural birthright to abundance. Like just
Absolutely. That's the
starting
big one.
those shifts, like, yeah.
Expecting abundance, right? Like literally expecting it. Like Joel Osteen wrote a book back in the day. It's called Your Best Life Now, Christian author. And just to actually expect good things to happen. We have such a negative mindset. We're actually built that way, right? Our reptilian brain, we're like looking for anything that's going to hurt us or harm us.
Yes,
But to
survival.
actually, yeah, totally. But to think, like you just said, to think abundance, just like expect to be shocked. Like, oh, I can't believe that didn't work out for me.
That's huge. That's huge, especially when it comes to like the work I do with health. It's hard. It's much easier to stay negative about the things that are not working, about all the things that haven't worked in the past decade. But when you start, like you say, thinking, I am better than I was yesterday, and I am doing things and bringing grace. And yes, I'm starting to reconnect with myself to a point where you can start expecting. It doesn't happen overnight, but really, I love that. And do you bring that into your meditation, that the expectation of abundance?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I think that I try to go in it with just pure love and abundance, but I don't have any like expectation of an outcome.
Yeah.
But I think what you said was really clear. There was, it's the grace, it's the grace, it's the gratitude, it's the future positive journaling, and it's the consistency over time. And the grace, because you're trying to, I'm 44, right? You're trying to take 40 something years of conditioning and you think you're going to change it overnight. You're not. So give yourself a break. It'll come, you know?
Patience is hard for high achieving women.
Oh, for sure.
Such a big shift. But again, it's that feminine energy that needs to be felt, not just like saying it, but feeling it.
Yeah. And it's hard to feel it when you literally have been taught your whole life that the metric of success is, technically men, and you're trying to be and compete against that. And you lose touch. I mean, I'm not a woman, but I can imagine losing touch with that feminine side. I mean, I know how much I've tapped into it more as a man. And I think we all have feminine, masculine energies, but I mean, if without the masculine, or sorry, without the feminine, like we just don't have any joy. Like the feminine is Mother Earth, it is connection, it is nature, it is nurture, it's love, it's everything that brings the meat of life together. The masculine is necessary to structure it all and protect it. Without the masculine, it won't exist. But if we just have the masculine, we wouldn't have any joy. And like the juiciness of life is in the feminine.
Amen. Yes, I hope you all felt that. Okay, I feel like this conversation could go on for hours, but if I just try to like bring it back to the topic, which was the art of manifestation, some little nuggets that I heard, start slow, lots of grace, lean in, 30 seconds, go and meditate, connect with your body, get out of your mind, utilize nature as a catalyst to get there faster, and then really connect with that future version of you. You call it the future positive journaling. So write about what is it you want to see for yourself and expect abundance.
Exactly.
In every sphere of your life.
Yeah. And I think the other one there too is really get away. Like take a weekend by yourself. Like go into nature, go to the beach, go somewhere and just sit alone. Like our minds are crazy and we don't ever sit with them. We're afraid of them. And then also that external stimuli will slow down and we'll be able to actually hear those more quiet whispers that are not always listened to, because that loud monkey mind is going crazy.
Yeah. The whispers often are just, they've been stuffed down for so long that they're buried, but they're there. They're definitely there. Wow. Thank you. And I just want to say for those of you who are hearing, let's say you're a busy mom and you have a business and you're like, well, I can't just like take off for a couple days. Remember, leaning into your feminine energy is also about asking for help. Never thinking that you have to do it all by yourself. So not being afraid to ask for help.
We can't do this alone. You've got to ask for help. I was just reading a book by a really huge CEO who's part of the whole .com era. And that's the one thing he said is you don't have to carry the burdens alone.
No.
There's no CEO, and we're talking about billion-dollar companies, that handles this burden alone. You're supposed to spread it around. You've got to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's finish there. Ask for help and then the manifestation will happen.
Exactly.
Almost, right? Almost. Well, thank you, Marc. This is always such a pleasure, such a joy, and a privilege, really. Thank you for your time. Where can people find you?
If you want to find me, it's just Marc Anthony Longwith, Longwith, on Instagram. I'm always in the DMs checking, seeing if anyone's checking up. And then our business is Energetic Alignment Academy. If you're a coach or a healer and you're just looking to, monetize your medicine, as we call it, come check us out. We have free workshops. And and I am starting that Evolved Entrepreneur. I'm just doing some content in June, but about just more about the masculine integrity and leadership in the males today and how it's lacking. So that's something I'm working on.
So important. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, beautiful women. If the tips and tricks I'm sharing here on the show are getting you inspired, excited about the possibility of feeling like yourself again, maybe it's time we hop on a call. Did you know I offer free 30-minute discovery calls to anyone being curious about my health coaching approach, but most importantly, anyone feeling like their time is now. If you're feeling like you've had enough, it's time to turn things around, well, let's chat. Find the link in the show notes and let's meet. The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grutman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.